Hello, we're live, finally. Welcome, people. Ladies and gentlemen, it's lovely to have you. Notification to say I'm live. Did you get that notification? Is that you flooding in now? How is everyone? See cats in the chat, or at least was. I'm very late. Very late. I hope everyone's had a good week so far. Hump day, right? I never knew what that meant, and then learning what it meant wasn't as exciting. Just means the middle of the week. But the English language. Hello, my love. How are you? It's lovely to have you in the chat. I know you've got a very busy schedule. I was hot pod yoga. The girls have been busy training for Tough Mudder while I've been healing. They have not stopped, and there's so much footage if you want to go and watch it on the Different Human Design Instagram, on the TikTok, Facebook. I posted some links earlier. Oh, girl, I'm missing your face too. If you're free after this, I should be able to come and see you. What time is it? Yes. Sorry, I was just checking my calendar. What a low energy start to a stream. Sorry, guys. You know when you just have those days? I had all the plans in the world to do this alien conspiracy episode. I don't know if Dwight will make it. It was requested by one of our regulars, our lunchtime regulars. I find it kind of interesting. We're not just going to look at the what happened, the conspiracy, but also look at like why do we believe in conspiracies? Why does this happen? How can we trust what's being said? Let's untangle it all. I feel like it could be quite interesting. Who knows? My personal opinion on stuff like conspiracies is that I like to enjoy consuming them as like fun entertainment. Do I fully subscribe to them like tinfoil hat style? No. There are some that are obviously not even like conspiracy theories. They're literally true. I'm not saying all conspiracies are BS. Certainly not. But I think the vast majority of them, especially in current culture, yeah, they're so close to uncovering what the actual truth is, and then they just end up going completely the other way. So I always say there's some truth behind, why does that conspiracy exist is really a good question to ask yourself when it pops up, to try and gauge what is actually trying to be covered up here. Generally, I don't believe that it is lizard people or the Jews. But it's just trying to work out, why is that bit of information being put out? Why is that taken over media? The media's attention. Obviously, we know that the media only focuses on a certain amount of things because they only have a certain amount of time in the day. So they cherry pick things that will grab your attention and the things that will motivate you politically one way or another. Trying to work out what that angle is, I think, is always a really good route. A really good route. Like Groot. Root like Groot, you know. What is she saying? So, the conspiracy is... Now, let me take you over to the React cam. This is why I was late. I was trying to figure out... Because it's not like I've already figured it out at one point and just completely forgot. Oh, wait, that is what's happened. There's all this like free space up here, and there's all this free space down here. Wait, down here. But there's also a load of free space around my face that should have been able to have cut out of the frame, but I've only been doing this for 2 years. How embarrassing, literally. So my solution is to do this. And just sit over here. When technical ability fails me, logic problem solving in the physical realm I can do. At least try my best on. So, hello and welcome. This is still a mental health and wellbeing drop-in clinic. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask about your own situation, something that you're facing, I'd love to still be able to help you. Please, by all means, stop me, get it in chat, ask me. And we'll literally stop what we're doing to focus on that. That is what this stream is for. But like I said, we've got a regular viewer who was interested in us going through this. Will he show up? Who knows? But I think it will be interesting either way. So the Miami conspiracy theory. Last year, a bunch of people reported seeing very tall aliens during New Year's Day. This is in Miami, Florida, which we already know is a questionable place. Some crazy stuff happens in Florida, that's for sure. Some people are claiming that it's one way, and there's been a lot of testimonies saying that it's another way. Some claiming that they'd seen aliens, while the police deny that it happened. And I thought we'd go through some of what I could find and kind of look at it. So, the Miami Mall conspiracy. It's piqued my interest because when it was mentioned on stream, I thought that when I'd Googled it, it'd come up with a load of visuals, a load of videos, a load of pictures where people have like reportedly, you know, if it's happened such an intriguing event, such a huge event, surely people have footage of this. And I haven't been able to find any. So I don't really understand where a lot of this... When he first brought it up, I didn't understand why this was such a big deal until Dwight in the chat literally said it was the eyewitness testimonies that literally quite interesting. They what stood out to him as being interesting. So I was like, okay, I'll delve in to try and find some of them. So just quickly before we get into that, see what happened. It's all on TikTok. Exactly. One thing we know about TikTok is everything's on there. And I will delve into some of them. we can't trust stuff just because it's on TikTok. If it's nowhere else, just on TikTok, we need to be able to unravel and analyze this information a lot better. And that's what this session's for. Let's have a look at it. So what happened on January the 1st, 2024 at nighttime, Bayside Mall, Miami, Florida. The Miami Mall conspiracy refers to a viral social media frenzy sparked by videos from a riot at Bayside Marketplace in Miami, where some users speculated about alien sightings, but the Miami Police Department ruled out aliens and identified the cause as teenagers setting off fireworks, which led to panic. If you're watching this and you're like, no, it's not, I've seen, it definitely wasn't teenagers, it doesn't make any sense, bear with me, I may have the argument coming up that I will cover. However, if you think that I haven't covered something that you think is really vital, please get it in the chat, link me in the chat, and we'll go over it together. I definitely don't want to leave any stone unturned. So, a group of... That's annoying. Let's get that out of the way. Let's move that a sec. There we go. So, a group of approximately 50 teenagers caused a riot at Bayside Marketplace, an outdoor mall near South Beach, by setting off fireworks. This is post New Year's Eve, so it kind of checks out in terms of when fireworks would be available. The fireworks led to a panic, with some people assuming there was a shooting. In America, I'm sure you hear bang bang, you just assume. In the UK, I'll hear a loud like car backfiring, and I'm like, shot. I think if I was in America, there'd be no question about it, right? Let's just assume. Videos from the incident went viral on social media, and some users claimed to see an alien figure in the grainy footage, fueling a speculation frenzy. So, videos from the incident going viral. I can't find any from the actual event. I can't find any except a very blurry still that TMZ released from outside. Grainy footage, literally. The Miami Police Department quickly ruled out aliens as a possibility, stating that the incident was caused by teenagers and no shooting had occurred. It was literally just fireworks, they're saying. The Miami Police Department ruled out aliens as a possibility after videos from an outdoor mall in Miami led to claims that aliens had landed. Can you imagine? So I find it really interesting. This news has broken out that seems like quite an understandable story, in my opinion. But ultimately, the internet had very different opinions. There was a... Let me show this footage from outside. If I go to this, will it let me play it? Yeah, accept. So this is the footage I've seen so far, that they're saying that this thing right here appears to be a 10-foot alien. In the still, in some parts, it can look a bit like that. It looks like a very tall... But if you zoom in, you can clearly see, really, that it's 3 people walking next to each other. Whether these people are from...
For incredible footwear cushioning, there's a choice. Wear pillows on your feet. A little awkward. Or get incredibly comfortable glide step, hands-free Skechers.
Rid of that. This footage here, like, it's so grainy. This is like the most I'm being able to find. A visual footage of this is what I've seen. Sure, I understand how it can look like a very tall being that police are surrounding. But as you saw in that video, you can see the individual legs walking, and they're walking really slowly. It doesn't seem like it's quite the... I wouldn't be walking that slowly if I thought there was aliens inside that I was addressing, here to tackle. Again, I'm not a cop. Never will be. And I find this very interesting. Another argument that for why people were saying that it seems strange is that there was like so many police cars outside for just a couple of teenagers. And I don't see how that's an argument either. If there is reportings of 50-odd teenagers that are threatening public safety, there is, of course, going to be a lot of police activity. You know, if someone came into a stadium full of people and started just shooting at the audience, you can assume that there'd be a huge police presence there. And it's no different. So the amount of police that attended it, again, I don't see that as an argument either. Again, if you're seeing anything that I'm not seeing, please send it, put it in the chat. I'm always open to new information. So one eyewitness testimony after another. One witness, claims to have seen 10-foot creatures disappearing and reappearing out of existence while at Bayside Mall before running. Many in the comments of TikTok videos focused on him and praised him for stating the truth and exposing the government as hiding what is hiding from the public eye. That's a big thing that we see on social media, is there's always going to be two camps. There's always going to be the group of people that are like, yeah, whatever, you're lying. And the other group of people that are just like, you're exposing the government's truth, the government's lies, sorry. And it taps into that distrust of authority, that distrust of our systems that are put in place that we repetitively see fail us on a daily basis. You know, the amount of, let's say, crimes that go uninvestigated, uncharged, people that go free. I can see it in current media. Even with someone at the likes of our matey boy from Romania, there's the group of people that are terrified of him and want him off our streets completely. And then there's the group of people that are like, he's just revealing the government's lies. He's just, you know, revealing the matrix. He's talking about things that he shouldn't be, and therefore people are coming for him. Taps into our distrust to someone that doesn't have much understanding or grasp of politics, economics, the world in general. It sounds like it makes sense. It sounds decent because it's kind of put into in between claims that can't be disputed. Going to the gym is good for you. Can't deny that. It doesn't mean that what you say about women, however, does fly. So yeah, one of the guys that was filming himself running away, and again, I was trying to find this video as well, and it's like they've just been removed from the internet. Especially for my researching level skills anyway. I'm sure way back when or something like that would have it on. a guy who did film himself running away from the mall, he released another video on Twitter after getting quite a bit of... Oh, it's so annoying. Right. Play. Rewind. This is what he had to say the day after.
Yo, how I wake up, my shit jumping like the trap. Nah, but for real, like real shit though, on the dead homies, I was trolling. I ain't never even been to Miami. Shit, yo, y'all be bugging. Yo, real shit though, y'all stay away from them fucking aliens and all that. Y'all be safe out there. Yo.
He was just trolling. And you could say, well, yeah, that was just one guy trolling. I would argue that's just one guy that admitted he was trolling. It's bizarre. Why do that? For the likes, for the clout, obviously. And I'm sure this makes people that are, very invested in UFO sightings and in the idea of aliens existing. This sort of thing must really annoy them, right? It must be really annoying. It's counterproductive. It's just not helpful. So I think it's a shame that you've got people that do this. But unfortunately, that is a part of the internet. A lot of the internet activity we see, from hate comments to just being obsessed within certain Reddit subreddits, contributing contributing to just all the sides of the internet that are a little bit alternative, especially if you think differently anyway. It's very easy for you to, one, find it interesting, it's novel, but two, to kind of find your own identity in it. Like, yes, I believe in this, therefore it's a part of me. Therefore, I kind of need a story like that myself, right? Or I need to believe in this because it creates that fantasy that lets me escape from real world. And I'll go into this a little bit more after. But yeah, if you've got any more insights into this, because one thing for me is, surely there's got to have been more footage, right? If this really happened, I'd like to think that there would be more footage. And you can say, well, are people, if something that terrifying was to happen in front of you, would you have time to stop? I don't know. But we've got a little bit, we've got a little bit of topics to consider outside of this. Like, why is this an important thing to look into? So first of all, memory, fear, and adrenaline. Why we misremember what we saw. The reason that I want to bring this up is because the lovely subscriber that suggested that we covered this said that the eyewitness testimonies were really interesting. And without even having to read them, again, please send me convincing ones. I did find one, I read the whole thing. It was like, okay, that seems pretty well read. And then at the top it said, this is a fictional story for entertainment purposes only. So yeah, I just couldn't find them, at least any that seemed substantial. Again, this is probably down to my poor researching skills than anything. But nonetheless, we're here to look at psychology behind it. So when something terrifying or shocking happens, like a supposed alien sighting, our brains don't prioritize accuracy. They prioritize surviving. The brain shuts down all the elements that it doesn't need, and adrenaline floods the body. It sharpens certain senses, but it impairs our ability to encode and store detailed memories. It's an advantage in some areas, and it's a disadvantage in others. The complex brain of humans will always be complex. This is why we try to understand it the best we can, because it will stop us making terrible choices, letting our thoughts influence our behaviors. So under fear, your brain might fill in gaps or amplify sensory cues like lights or shadows to make sense of danger. This happens a lot when... Have you ever been sat around as a joke with your friends telling scary stories, and then you have to go off to the toilet, and suddenly you're actually like in the hallway on your own in the dark trying to find the light, and you're like, I don't like this. Another one is running up the stairs when you're in the house on your own. The idea of someone grabbing your ankles. Just that idea makes your heart pump faster. It makes your blood run faster in your body. You get physiological symptoms of stress as you run up the stairs. And even if we psychologically know, we laugh at ourselves like, it's so stupid. You jump in bed like, oh. We know that it's a ridiculous thing to do. But it's still not something that we can control, really. And that just shows how the brain controls the mind, which controls behavior. Nutty. So this is why eyewitnesses say often that I know what I saw, but their memories seem to blend reality with fictional, what actually happened. I want you to think, have you ever been in a stressful situation where looking back, your memory feels a bit fuzzy or exaggerated? I know for me, certain elements exaggerate. Especially, if I've seen something on the TV and it's made me laugh. Even, laughter is a form of arousal. I'm still excited by what I'm seeing. And I'll be like, oh my God, that's so funny. I need to show someone else. And time will pass. And obviously, as time passes, comedy progresses. Your own experiences progress. And my memory of telling people the story about something that happened will change in a way that certain aspects get exaggerated. And I don't do this consciously. This is genuinely how I remember them, because they're staying funny in my mind. The way that I tell the story changes the memory of what happened. And this can also happen with someone else telling you something happened. It's really strange. Suggestibility and confirmation bias. Why stories keep changing once the first story drops. Say someone claims that they saw something non-human at the mall. Other people start to fit their memories into that narrative. Suggestibility means our memories are malleable. If someone tells us what we should remember, our brains can reshape what we remember. Confirmation bias is our brain's tendency to seek evidence that fits what we already believe. So if we believe aliens are real, we're more likely to interpret strange movements or light as proof. I've seen so much footage of grainy shadows and strange, like if you really zoom in, there's a finger behind the gate. And it just, if it's not edited and quite clearly some sort of video footage edit, it's so blurry and so untangible that I just don't understand, like, how we all have pretty good phones now. We all have pretty good cameras on our phones. There's no reason for us to not have way more footage, in my opinion. Again, and it's not that I don't believe in aliens. I believe that aliens exist. Do I believe that they are here? Unfortunately not. But that's where my confirmation bias will kick in. There's certain information that I will look at and certain information that I will disregard purely because I don't believe that aliens are currently visiting this earth. Sorry to disappoint anyone. If anyone's watching and they're like, "What? You're not a believer?" I'm a really boring, realistic version of believing. It's very much the same as religion and God. It's like I've got no proof that it doesn't. There's so much evidence that would make more sense that it doesn't exist. Do you know what I mean? So online communities can reinforce these ideas, making it harder to separate facts from mass belief. Kat says yes when I go to the dentist. I can't remember what that was in relation to. What would that have been about? A stressful situation where your memory is fuzzy, maybe. I know for me, the dentist is a very good example, actually, where all I remember is the pain and discomfort, and I just don't want to go back. Realistically, was it that painful and horrible? Yes. I hate the dentist. I hate metal on teeth. That's one of my sensory nightmares, and that is what dentistry is, unfortunately. So it's a level of discomfort that it literally makes me feel like my whole body wants to just jump out of itself when someone scrapes metal against my tooth. Oh. That says I don't think they are here now, but definitely in the past. That's an interesting theory. I definitely think that's more acceptable. Acceptable isn't the word. Realistic makes more sense. It's hard to talk about things like this and be like, it's more realistic. Because what is realistic when you're talking about these things? Some people just don't believe. Oh. Sorry, I was thinking of the dentist again. So yeah, online communities can reinforce these ideas, and it makes it harder to separate these things that are happening. Especially we love TikTok. TikTok gives us so much good. Our life hacks. It gives us information. It gives us fun dances to do. To think that someone could put in so much time and effort into a video where they're talking so like to you, like into your soul. How could they be lying? We're not going to say actually that everyone is a liar. I think, and I'll go into this a lot more, this idea of believing in aliens, it becomes a part of our personality, and it kind of speaks a lot more about our psychopathy, our personality, our persona, a lot more than it actually says about whether we just believe in aliens or not. Saying metal on teeth is horrible. That's my worst. I can't stand it. Metal rubbing together in my vicinity, I can't handle. I can feel it in the back of my teeth. But putting metal to my... I think I know where it started as well. So I used to put my hair up with tiny, like, the metal grips. And I'd use my teeth to separate them to then put it in my hair. And I remember doing it once, and it slipped and went like all the way. It didn't go into my gums, but it scraped along my tooth, and it gave me this like sensation of like I'd just been electrocuted. And it made the whole, just thinking about it, I've made that part of my mouth feel like it's just happened. What a nightmare. How suggestible the brain is. It's terrible. But this is what I mean. We have got very malleable, suggestible brains. So everyone wants proof, but would you really be able to film something so terrifying? We'll touch upon this in a little while. Have you ever convinced yourself of something only later to realise evidence didn't really support it? Now, when I first thought of this question, I was first like, I don't think so. But the more I thought about it, I was a bit like, oh, okay. The attack of personal space, yeah. Is that at the dentist, do you mean? Just having someone like, I fully get that. I have a new dentist, and the last time that I went, she was just dropping liquid down me, like in my hair, in my. I was like, can we not? She was just proper leant over, like, yeah. And then she told me that I need 6 fillings, and was like, but they're not really that urgent. And I was like, well, 120 a pot times 6. I'm not good at maths, but I don't need to be to work out that I'm too piss poor to be able to afford that. So she was like, so if you can't get them right now, it's not really urgent. I was like, yeah, I won't be getting them right now. That's okay. A lot of eyewitness testimony research I find really interesting. So memory, a psychology of memory. Dr. Elizabeth Loftus, say it again, is one of the most famous psychologists in this field. She showed that people could be implanted with false memories just by being told something. So in one study, she convinced participants that they had gotten into a lost mall, that they had gotten lost in a shopping mall as a child, even when it had never happened. I find that a really mind-blowing. Like, I understand how your parents could do that, right? Convince you that you've been through something and you just trust them. Like, if my mum said to me when you were 1, someone grabbed your pushchair, ran down the end of Blackpool Pier and went to push you in the water, but your dad stopped him and pushed him in the water instead, I'd live my life thinking that was a part of my story. I wouldn't question that. To think that someone can do that to you later in life, and if you've ever watched any Derren Brown, where people have been convinced that they've committed a crime when they haven't, it's crazy. Another thing that we have is selective attention. Our brains, like I said, when something happens that is triggering, the amount of information that we take in is very different to when our brains are relaxed. So, one video that was showed to us in psychology class. Oh. What do you think to the pyramids? Okay. I think I need to do a whole other podcast on just the pyramids. That's what I think I need to do now. So that might actually be really interesting to do with Lindsay, because I know that it's probably a bit, like I said, one side biased with just me talking about it. When you've got Lindsay talking about it as well, she's got that juxtaposition of complete contrast. She's read a lot about it. It makes a lot of sense to her. And I think getting her take would be really interesting as well. But what are your views on the pyramids? What do you think about the pyramids? Going back to the video that we were shown in psychology to teach us about eyewitness testimonies and how not very valuable they are. We were shown this video and we were asked to watch how many times people with white shirts passed basketball. And it was just a group of people playing basketball. Some had dark shirts and some people had light shirts. And it was about a minute long. It really wasn't a long video at all. And we just had to count how many times they throw the basketball. Now, I was going to show this video here, but it's actually copyrighted. It belongs to a psychology school, so I can't show it, unfortunately, without being copyright striked, which is annoying. After we watched the video, he said how many times, and a lot of us got, I think, around the same answer, about 13, but some people were a little bit more, some people were a little bit less. And then he said, "Did you see the gorilla?" And we all laughed because we were like, what? And he played the video again. Not one of us saw that during this video, a man dressed in a gorilla suit walks into the middle of the screen, waves, and then walks off to the other side again. Not one of us saw it because we were instructed to focus on the basketballs. That to me just blows my mind, and it just shows how we really get rid of other information that we don't need, or at least we believe we don't need in the moment. Another study that was done showed that the weapon itself changed how people remembered things. So this study was carried out with two groups of people sat in a room. In the controlled one, someone walked through with in the first experiment, someone walked through holding a pen. These people sat either side of this room, and this person walked through one door, past them, into another door, leaving their eyesight. The first person holding a pen, people remembered the information as very normal. They reported the colour of his jacket. They recovered the amount of people that were sat with them. Very basic, general information. When it came to the group of people that were sat, and the person that walked through held a knife, just a little pen knife, suddenly people's eyewitness testimonies changed, and they focused a lot more on the person himself, saying his racial identity, it was incorrect. They mentioned his height as being way taller than it was. They mentioned him looking way more scarier than he actually looked. Remember, this was the same man, dressed exactly the same way, just holding a different instrument. These people remembered him as having an angry look to him. They remembered him breathing heavily. They remember him giving off an aura that was very scary. Just by holding something different changed how people reported details. Another experiment showed how just changing one word in a question, smashed versus bumped, altered how people thought cars were going in, how fast cars were going in a video. So again, just like the gorilla video, asking people about a smashed car and a bumped car created very different reports. These findings highlight how unreliable eyewitness testimonies and memories can be, especially under pressure or when some story gets retold repeatedly. Like I said before, when I was saying about a story that made me laugh, the more times that I tell it, it changes. There's certain aspects that get exaggerated, there's certain aspects that get dropped. And many good comedians will argue that the details are not important. You agree, another podcast with Lindsay about pyramids. I agree. I enjoy her passion for it. Do you trust your memory in stressful situations? So now that you know that, how will you move forward with your own memory, with your own confirmation bias? Will we be more questionable of things, of information that's put our way? I think, right, just because I believe that doesn't make it true. Let's actually work this out. Let's look more into it. Why do some people run and others hit record? I've always found this an interesting point, because I always make it, why aren't there any footage? And then people will say to me, like, if you were that scared and that, like, observing of something that terrifying, would you really be like, hold on? No. Especially not with a remote control. That makes no sense. Phone's here. So when we're faced with fear or uncertainty, like a sudden blackout, a loud crash, or seeing something strange at a mall at night, our nervous systems kick into what's called fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response. These are survival mechanisms, but they don't always look how we expect. So what are these things? Fight is when you get angry and confrontational. It's a conspiracy context. In a conspiracy context, sorry, this might be someone demanding answers, calling authorities, or even confronting others on the scene. Flight, you run. This is the one that we expect people do, right? You run, literally. Many people feel the surge of adrenaline and just need to escape, especially if their brain interprets danger. If this danger is coming from something of a way bigger threat as well, we know that we don't generally hang around to see how it plans out, unless you become immobilized. And this is freeze state. This is when the brain shuts down the decision-making part temporarily. You might stand completely still or just stare, trying to process what's happened. These are people like, it is what it is. It's freezing. Oh my God, deer in the headlights. But then you have fawn, and this is a more relatively new school of thought that's been added, and it's lesser known. It's when people try to appease or blend in to avoid danger. In a situation involving authority or perceived threat, someone might stay quiet, agree with others, or avoid conflict. I think this is something that we do a lot more than the other three. I find it a very interesting concept. And we see that animals do this. If you tell a dog off, how many dogs do you see make that, like, guilty face? I'm not going to try and impersonate it. And they kind of put their head down, and it's like, I'm sorry. It's like, here's my belly. Here's the most vulnerable part of me. Look. And it's just that. It's okay. Like, we're friends, right? And it's very heartbreaking to see happen in a toxic relationship. So if you're watching a video and wondering, why are they just standing there filming instead of running? They might be frozen, disassociating, or even using their phone to feel in control. Control, pulling out someone's phone gives people something tangible to do, a sense of agency in a chaotic moment. I had a moment once where I was driving, and I came up against, it was a narrow road, but not too narrow that two people can't get past. It was going around a bend, and as I noticed another car coming around, I started to slow down. I wasn't going fast anyway. It was literally past a church, a tiny little village. As I stopped to let the other car go past me at a slower, I'm stopped. A man on the pavement next to me yelled into my car, "You stupid bitch, you're going 30 in a..." How am I going? I wouldn't have been able to have stopped that quickly to have let someone else go at this. None of it made any sense. And I was like, what? I really don't. And as I look to the side of me, he's coming at me. He's walking up to my car. And the first thing I thought to do was, like, I need evidence of this happening. And I did get my phone out. The video is horrible. It's just some, like, greasy dude yelling in my window. While I'm like, "You're on camera, yeah, you're on camera, yeah." It's like, to look back. The realistic part is no one ever is going to see the light of that video. It's just not happening. That's fine though. So yeah, that it can offer a sense of control, and I can see how that happens. Proof seeking, like I just said, we're trained to record everything now. If something seems explainable, something new, instinctively, we think, I need evidence of this. Disbelief, again, the brain might be still trying to rationalize what's happening. So if you can film it, something that you can rewatch later, then it just makes more sense. Real world examples. During natural disasters, people often film extreme weather, even when it's dangerous. How many people have you seen? How many videos of hurricanes, tornadoes, tsunamis have you seen because people have left themselves out in the elements to get this footage? Again, not advisable. Don't do that, people. We want you back in the chat. But it happens. Same with protests, accidents, fights, current wars. In therapy, clients sometimes describe freezing during traumatic events and feeling guilty later on, not reacting, when in reality their body chose survival over logic. How many of us at school were bullied or someone said something and it's not till you walk off after, literally it could be seconds, where you're like, damn it, why didn't I say that? Or your mate gives you a really good input, a really good comeback that you hadn't thought of. It's annoying. That's because in that moment, your body wasn't prepared to fight. Media-wise, we saw during events like the Las Vegas shooting and current wars, countless people filming, even as others ran, showing the diversity and fear responses. A really sad thing that we see from current war footage that people are posting literally on their mobile phones is the little amount that people are actually reacting to these like bombs hitting them and stuff like that. You can hear the noise happening outside of their homes, and there's children that just seem so desensitized to it. It's heartbreaking. Pre-Palestine. What do you think you'd do if you saw something truly terrifying or unexplainable? Would you run or hit record? I'm interested to know. Please get it in the chat if you want to share any times that come to mind when you think about this. I think for me, it depends what it is. A huge fireball is coming towards me. No, I'm not getting my phone out. If I'm out in the open and someone is coming up to me to hit me, no, I'm not getting my phone out. I'm running. I'd like to think that I'm throwing punches back, but realistically, I'm not doing that. I'm a lover. I'm not a fighter. I'm running. And I'm running for as fast as I can, for as long as I can, which isn't far, so I hope they don't really pursue me that much. Why am I giving you tips if you're trying to... It's not good. Another thing that I wanted to look at is, why are people drawn to alien conspiracies? It's easy to dismiss them, especially if you're a non-believer, as wild or far-fetched. But psychologically, they tap into some very human needs. Let's unpack why so many people, even skeptics, feel pulled in by these stories. A need for meaning. When life feels chaotic or painful, the brain wants a bigger picture. Aliens represent a purpose beyond the everyday, beyond that mundane, beyond that slug that life can really feel like. For some, believing in other life forms or hidden truths makes the world feel less random. There's so much that struggles to be explained that if something like aliens, the paranormal, even down to spirituality and religion explains, it helps make the world feel more logical, like it makes sense. And also with purpose. Like, am I really just on this rock floating through space, waiting for my time to end? Or is there more to it? Something like reincarnation, this idea of like, this isn't the last life. This isn't your first life. And it's just one example. Excuse me. It can be comforting to think maybe there's a reason for all this. Therapy. Some people processing trauma or major life shifts often search for deeper meaning. There's unfortunately, groups of people that understand this and will target you at your worst times, at your worst moments. A very common one for this, and one that happened to my own mum, is Jehovah's Witnesses in my area would go through the obituaries and get the addresses of the loved ones of past people, and they would almost try and offer them the chance to meet them again. I remember distinctly my mum being normally she'd always turn Jehovah's Witnesses away anyway, just being a Christian, she doesn't believe in that. But one day after losing her mum, she was very vulnerable and she didn't have anyone to talk to in the house at that moment. And these lovely ladies, very convincing, sweet appearingly, tried to sell her this idea that they could meet again if she just followed the kingdom and all their teachings, because this is what heaven is, where you're met again with your... Ultimately, they wanted money from her. Which is, I suppose, that difference between Christianity and Jehovah's Witnesses. It's kind of sad. But this is something that happens. People will prey on you during major life traumatic moments, because those are the moments that you're trying to find something to hold on to. There's also the fear of the unknown. I always say that we feel ambiguity with fear. And it's true, it happens a lot. Ironically, imagining aliens gives us a way to name the unknown. It's easy to say it was UFO rather than sit with ambiguity or powerlessness. Quite often when we hear about these sightings of strange aircraft that no one's heard of, my brain instantly goes to war, unfortunately. It goes to military operations that are secret. And it would be way more beneficial for the government to have you think that it was a UFO. Which is why I find it interesting that there's been government statements about clarifying that there are UFOs, even changing the terminology for it now. I find it strange that that happens at a time when the world is heading for World War III. So instead of sitting there and working out, is it that terrifying of an answer? Is it really that? Brains can go be like, it's aliens. Because no one could be fully sure that aliens would be against you, right? Especially if you're into aliens. The amount of alien conspiracy theorists that love the idea of a UFO and aliens being are like, I would get on with aliens. Like, send me. I will be the interpreter. I'm nothing like those nasty humans. We would like to believe that we wouldn't be treated badly. Similarly, we also put this idea of what humans do to people on aliens. This idea of if they were to come down, that they were to abduct us or to conduct experiments all these different kind of negative things. And I think you're just drawing upon what humans have done horribly through history. So our brains like certainty, even if it's terrifying. Anxiety often comes from uncertainty and lack of control. Alien theories give a framework, even if it's out there. Some people have a desire to believe that there is more out there, but life can feel small, repetitive, and exhausting. Alien conspiracies, I think, already tap into that idea of hope. Like, surely there's more to this 9 to 5, more to this bills, to the burnout. It's a mix of wonder and escape, a way to expand the imagination when reality feels heavy. Quite often we like to escape, right? We play games, we role play, we think about what we'd do if we won the lottery. We make mood boards, we make manifestation boards. We like to escape, and it's often a tool that we use in therapy. Imagination is a very great tool for lifting us out of these heavy situations. This is similar to why people get into fantasy or spirituality. It feeds creativity and others' emotional relief. Tarot cards for me. It really is. And we've touched on this briefly already, but the idea of distrust of authority and the search for alternative truths. When you are especially neurodivergent and you've grown up already being able to question things that have turned out to be exactly how you questioned them. When there's so much evidence of the powers that be lying to us, when there's so much evidence of our systems failing us, of our resources, our assets, all just plummeting, many people feel let down by the system, governments, healthcare, education, even family in some cases. So alien conspiracies offer a narrative that the truth is just being hidden. It gives people a sense of control. At least I'm not being fooled, you know? And I know I get that from when I think about socialism. I'm like, oh, thank God I actually understand. But then the other part of me is like, I wish I didn't, so that I could live life without the anxiety that it's just probably not going to be socialist in my lifetime. Again, is that my own confirmation bias? Interesting to think about. So for survivors of trauma or institutional betrayal, distrust is protective. Conspiracies can feel safer than trusting flawed systems. Putting it together, alien stories often have less to do with their outer space and more to do with inner space. I love that. I'm like a poet. Our needs to feel safe, understood, and in control are very important to others. So when we ask, why do we believe in aliens? We're really asking, what does this belief do for someone emotionally? And often the answer is, it helps them to cope with whatever life is throwing at them, whatever life has repetitively thrown at them. So yeah, I hope that wasn't too boring or too strange. I like looking at the psychological underpinnings for things. So yeah, it's me, guys. How do we feel about... My goal here, by the way, was not to make you not believe in aliens. That's the last thing I'm trying to do. I'm not here to piss on rainbows or kill unicorns. I'm here to simply offer alternative thinking of maybe this one wasn't it. And that doesn't mean that aliens don't exist. But like I said, I missed a lot of stuff here. I'm sure I did. If you know of any more contradicting arguments against mine, please get them in the chat, send me them as a comment, and we can go over them another time. Probably during the pyramids episode. So, ooh. On that note, before I destroy any more of the studio, crashing it about, thank you very much for joining us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We will be back. We have a proper podcast to do. Possibly tomorrow, possibly at another date. I will get that sorted and have the information for you by the end of the night. I hope you've enjoyed the stream. Thank you very much for joining. Have a lovely rest of your week if I don't see you. Oh, thanks for the loves in the chat. Have a lovely day, guys. Take care.